It's tax season, and at LifeLock, we know you're tired of numbers. But here's a big one you need to hear. Billions. That's the amount of money in refunds the IRS has flagged for possible identity fraud. Now here's another big number. 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it guaranteed. One last big number. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast for the threats you can't control. Terms apply.
Raise the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an Enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. Start converting your B2B audience today. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started today at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Wrestling Draft.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the Wrestling Draft here on the Wrestling Draft YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcast if you just want to listen to it. We are hot on the road to WrestleMania. We're on the road to a revolution on the way towards the end of this tag team season, and what a ride we've been having the last few weeks. On TV, you got AJ Lee as a champion, Randy Orton is in a WrestleMania main event. People are wondering what year is it in WWE? Well, here on the Wrestling Draft, David Hockney is away. His holiday did not quite go the way he was planned. He can tell you all about that when he's back. But we here at the Wrestling Draft have rolled the clocks back to past the Wrestling Draft, to back to the SSR days, to 2019/2020. Because joining me, filling in the David Hockney-shaped hole in all of our hearts, is David Campbell. David, how are you?
I am brilliant. Once again, part of the corporate entity that is Roscoe this season. A lot of people writing us off at this stage. We'll get into that. But I've seen this film before, and I very much like the ending, Scott McCloud. And I think that there is a happy ending for Roscoe still on the table here. So I'm excited to get into it.
Well, let's get into it then. I should talk about the top three of the week so far. Just outside of the top three and fourth, which is 10 points, is Tiffany Stratton, who is on me and Brock's team. Now, that is solid, for a week getting 10 points primarily through the Elimination Chamber and a win on SmackDown. Came up second place in the Elimination Chamber, and I just feel like a parent who'd say, oh yeah, second place. Well, sounds like someone else's parents are a little bit happier than I am because their child came in first. Just glad we didn't take David's advice and make her our captain for the chamber because she didn't win.
Yeah, it didn't win, and I know that you have a penchant for picking the chamber winners, you know what I mean, over the years.
The streak is over.
Yeah, the streak is over, but it has to be said, right? Tiffany is still a top competitor. You've got to think that she will have a match at WrestleMania in some capacity. We talk about it in Unreal. They're clearly very high in Tiffany Stratton. So I do not think that this is a massive knock for you and Tom. Yes, it would have been great to get those chamber points, but Tiffany still got good points this week, which is what you wanted on the road to WrestleMania, and I think she will come good for you guys in the end. So I don't think Tiffany is going to be your problem. She's not going to be your juggernaut that maybe you hoped that she would be, but she's certainly not going to be a problem for your team.
No. I had high hopes for her. I mean, she's not been cursed yet. No, that goes to Dominic Mysterio, fucking Danhausen.
Jesus.
But looking at the top three, it's a chamber-flavoured top three. You have Cody Rhodes and Rhea Ripley on 11 points each after winning their respective chambers. And we have CM Punk and at 13 points after winning his match against Finn Balor. Captaincy applied, pay-per-view title win, plus an appearance on Monday Night Raw confronting Roman Reigns, who's finally on the board. Not really many surprises there. I mean, Rhea Ripley didn't need any more points than she already has. I mean, this is a point I think she's starting to get back towards where she was before a few seasons ago, before the likes of Stephanie Vicaire were trying to overshadow her. back when she was in prime Judgment Day mode, is Rhea constantly as a singles competitor, whereas it seemed like at the start of the season she might just be kept to the tag team division, but this past weekend proved those doubts wrong.
So a lot of the discourse after the draft was this question that was posed as to whether Riho should have been taken as a tag team, right? Scott, do you want some behind-the-scenes planned draft chat here?
Always.
If Dan Axel Jameson had not picked Rhea Ripley, she would have been on Roscoe. She was our first choice for the second round ahead of Io Sky. And it was because me and Ross knew, we thought that a breakup might be in the cards, but at the very least there was going to be a tag title defense, right? And we thought that Rhea was the stronger option of the two. I'm not ashamed to admit Io Sky was the second choice. She was the backup. But Dan Axel Jameson, and I've always said it, since he came into the league, I might have my disagreements with him. I think that he is one of the best and most thoughtful drafters that we have in this league. And I think that he saw the exact same thing that me and Ross saw with Rhea Ripley, and that's opportunity to break out singles at Mania, but at the very least you're going to get those tag team points. And I think that Dan has made a brilliant choice with Rhea getting her in that first round when a lot of people, Dave Hockney included, thought that she should have dropped further.
I think it's also because Rhea has been in an interesting place the last few seasons in terms of her booking, and that she's been in and around the title scene, but then slowly but surely got moved towards the tag team alongside Io with the Kabuki Warriors feud. I mean, yes, she was still getting wins on that and in War Games and things like that, but it didn't. I think as soon as they put the tag team belts on them, it felt like WWE, if they wanted to have a big showcase match for the women's tag team titles, then they would keep the belt on those two because they are two of the most popular women in the division, which means usually when they have people of that caliber holding the belts is when the belts get their most profile, like when likes of Bianca and Jade got them, or when the Golden Role Models got them. When they put those belts on people with such a high profile, the belts get showcased more. I was saying it multiple times over the weeks. I was not saying that Dan and the Jamesons made a mistake. I said I was interested to see.
That's why I said you posed the question. Dave went a bit harder than you did, it has to be said. But you posed the question, I get it. But if you look at the draft strategy, Dan kind of forced our hand a wee bit as well. I think he knew Io wasn't the stronger choice, but he'd seen the FTR strategy employed seasons before. It's now something that others have tried to replicate and have been in the lips. And me and Ross knew we don't take Io now and don't take the gamble that they take the tag belts to Mania, then Dan's going to get both halves of that tag team, as singles picks, which, wouldn't have worked out great for him in hindsight, being 2020, but I still do believe Io Sky will have a match at WrestleMania, hopefully against Julia for the US belt, which has been rumoured.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things we have to give our initial thoughts, pose the questions, and have to see where booking goes. You never trust Triple H where his booking's going to go, but
totally.
We also have Cody Rhodes. I think that was pretty much set in stone, as was CM Punk winning. I think the Punk win was what the think tank needed. But as we also said last week, me and Dave, Rhea Ripley win keeps the Jamesons in contention and keeps those two neck and neck near the top. But it's still very much everyone's game. And we will look at the top of the leaderboard here. Now, Stephen and Gary are at the top here, and it's fitting that they're at the top when Gary Morris and Robert Shaw are at the bottom, because they are the people. And in Stephen Wilson's world, the overlord of this draft, the people are always being kept down. The people are on 58 points, followed by myself and Tom brought the Brock and Scott connection on Emperor Palpatine's favourite number, 66. Just a half point ahead of us is the West End Wine Lovers, David and Stacey, 66.5 points. Then it's yourself, Roscoe, with 68.5 points. The Vibe Nation, minus the Vibes, 71 points, Alan and Matt. Then Andy and JP's name, 93.5 points. Where are all these half points fucking coming from? 100, and then it's 105 points for the Jamesons, but they're only 1 point behind the top 106. I think very much, like I said, keeping them in contention. The Rhea Ripley success, the quick bounce back from a 1-2 punch of losing the tag team titles on the Friday and then winning the Chamber on the Saturday really helped them out.
Yeah, 100%. And listen, I think Stephen, very clever drafter, very straightforward drafter. I think Gary is as well. And I think he's the sort of partnership that benefits both of them. They've picked a really smart team. Mox was a brilliant shout to get in there. Punk will wrestle less now in the road to WrestleMania. So it will be interesting. I do think there's the potential that the think tank runs out of steam by the time we get to Mania. But having said that, I also think the same about the Jamesons. That's why I'm saying I don't think that this thing is anywhere near over. I don't think you can call this a two-horse race at all. I still think that most of the teams in this league have a chance to narrow that gap on the road to WrestleMania. I don't think that we're anywhere close to seeing how this table is going to shape up, just because there's players missing from teams. There's going to be guys taking a back seat when we get into Mania time, which really focuses on the stars of the show. The Jamesons, if Harley Cameron loses that tag team belt, which has been rumoured, that's another knockback that they can't really afford to keep up there. So it'll be exciting to see what happens in the next couple of weeks. Revolution on the horizon, the TV leading up to Mania. Who's going to be wrestling? Who do they want to keep rested? It's far from over this, Scott. Far from over.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is very competitive. We'll come back to the teams a little bit later. We need to take another trip down to the Listeners League. Before that, though, something I noticed as I was going back over the results of the Elimination Chamber from a drafting perspective, the two people in both chambers who got the most eliminations were both part of tag teams. Raquel got the most eliminations for the women's, and Logan Paul in the men's, but he's been picked alongside Austin today, so that benefited nobody. Really, Andy and JP and the Jamesons are the only ones to really benefit from the chamber overall.
Yeah, you've got to say, like, with the chamber, that's not a bad strategy. I think, the days of picking a tag team in rounds 1 or 2 for me are gone as a draft strategy to take people off the table, as it were, just because, they're not going to score as highly. But say, taking Raquel and Roxanne, even though they've not scored yet, I don't regret that, because it meant no one's going to be able to get Raquel. The vision at the end, I don't think anyone foresaw that Logan Paul would get the big singles push, but happenstances meant he gets the eliminations that Bronson Reed was meant to get at the chamber. So I think that in this occasion, Scott, it's just came down to a lot of tricky twists of fate that have happened on the road to WrestleMania so far.
Looking at the Listeners League, it's very competitive right now. We have kind of a top 5. Technically, our number 5 is LeFact, Shawn May, Gobanel, with Sam, because they're on 95.5 points. But that's because, remember, at 4th, there are 4 people tied for 96 points. That being Ross Brady with Live and Let Die, Luke Scott with the bumps, David Jindoy, Big Meaty Men Slapping Meat, and my favourite and yours, Anthony Fitzpatrick. Main League didn't complete it.
Scott, 2 members of the Learning Tree there in the top 5. David and Anthony, got to love it. Shout out to my guys right there. Absolutely love them.
Special place in my heart for Anthony, but it's sad to see him get knocked down a few places in this little mix, but he can still pull it back.
Absolutely.
Up to Dwayne the Rock Paper Scissors with Nikki Preston on 102.5 points, then 104.5 points. They still say their name. They did not appear. 104.5 points, as I said. And then JP's Love Child, Lee McAteer on 109.5 points. So
that's the last thing that we need. Last thing we need.
As well up at the top of the league last week, and I think the week before that as well. To see him get knocked down the way he was is unfortunate. He does have the Vision, Liv Morgan, Dominic Mysterio, Harley Cameron, Don Callis. So obviously Dominic Mysterio loss would have hurt him there.
Yeah, and it's still tight. Obviously, Stuart Cowie's there and thereabouts, another Learning Tree guy. You've got Adam Callier, John Sly, Elliot Cantor. These are all names familiar to the Listeners League for years and years who are just outside of that top 5. Like I said with the main league, the Listeners League is still anyone's game. The chamber was just the first pit stop on the road to WrestleMania, Scott.
Should mention Lee McAteer has Cody Rhodes and Lash Ledge on his team, with one had a title and one had a chamber win, so that would have helped him on the way there. Stacey also has CM Punk, Tiffany Stratton, Lash Legend, Finn Balor, the Usos, Joe Hendry. So some strong players still going here. Looking ahead to NXT, there's not really much to talk about, by the way, with NXT. There's only Joe Hendry is on the Jameson team, so that's another big opportunity for them, him against Ricky Saints. They also have the Young Bucks the following weekend, but they're going up against my tag team, me and Tom Brock's tag team of FTR, so hopefully FTR can pull that one out. But there isn't really much in terms of representation over on the NXT side, at least not of who's getting focused on at Vengeance Day. But we should come back to the teams here now. It does seem like with the Jamesons that the Braun Breaker absence isn't as of yet affecting them, primarily because they've got Rhea Ripley performing so strongly. So you can only imagine where they would be right now if Braun Breaker didn't get injured the way he did.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Listen, they'd be soaring right now, and they do have a lot of upside. I think they've got consistency with Don Callis getting the appearance points there. I think they get a boost for Joe Hendry, like we talked about with NXT. That is a surefire defense against Ricky Saints that they're going to have. You know, I think the question marks for the Jameson will come, Scott, when we get to the Evolution. You know, what happens with Harley Cameron? What happens with the Bucks? Dan Axel Jameson himself is concerned that the Bucks are not going to win their match at Revolution. So that is where the momentum starts to slow. And if after that, on the road to WrestleMania, we know the WWE people who will appear, do Harley Cameron, do the Young Bucks, do they cool off? Don Callis isn't the same player he was last season as well. So that is where, Scott, they are then relying on Rhea Ripley, who I think, considering the injury fucking crisis that's happening in WWE right now, will be wrapped up in not wrestling on television as much as they can help it. So I do think that the Jamesons, they've done well, like you say, with the absence of Braun Breaker. I think they start to cool off. I really do.
Yeah. Should mention Annie JP are just in third place. That is also down to Cody Rhodes. When Cody Rhodes is on 42 points with the captaincy applied, and also there's the Last Legend factor of her wanting Ajax win the tag team titles. So them being in third is as much as they can ask for right now. But considering how bad of a start they had three people with titles in Tommaso Ciampa, Chris Statlander, and Dark State. And within a week and a bit of each other, they all lost the titles, two of them in a one night.
Yeah, and I think that the problem they have now is that I don't think that they have the juice outside of Cody to keep going. Listen, Cody Rhodes could win the WWE title tomorrow night in SmackDown.
Oh yeah, we should have mentioned that as well, yes.
Yeah, Cody Rhodes could well get title points for them tomorrow night.
I didn't think Cody won the Chamber. He fucking didn't, but he did do well.
Yeah, like he did really well. Listen, and Andy and JP, I said coming into this season, that is a chaotic mix that I don't want anything to fucking do with. You know what I mean? Like, they could either absolutely win this league in a landslide or do quite shite. What's happened is the secret third option of just absolute chaos, banking and Cody Rhodes carrying them and the rest of their broken team through the season. I'm not discounting it. I just don't think it's the apt place to be at this point in the run to be thinking we need Cody Rhodes to absolutely just juggernaut our way to victory at this stage in the game.
Yeah, I don't know why. I think because everyone was certain that Cody was going to win, but he didn't. Yeah, Randy won. Despite the fact no one in this league even thought to pick Randy as an option heading to WrestleMania, but Cody, the rumor is now that it will be Cody that wins the title tomorrow night, set him versus Randy. You know, legacy, colliding a match that teased for ages, and that means Drew would then transition into a match with Jacob Fatu, which has been something that's been a long source of discussion in the draft chat. And Robert Shaw and Guy Morris have Drew McIntyre. They also have Jacob Fatu, so they would get points for those two appearing together, being in a feud. But
classic GOAT strategy that get two people who are feuding.
They are in last place, so I believe Drew might be their captain. So him losing the title at this stage is also probably not what they would want either.
Yeah, listen, I think Gary and Robert's goose is cooked. When I said everyone still has a chance of winning the league, I didn't really mean them. I think and that's not even me being cheeky. Like, that's me just speaking factually. I don't think that they have the juice there. I don't see anyone on that team who's going to be able to sort of carry them up. Yes, Sol Ruka might get a win for them at Vengeance Day. Julia might be involved at Mania. You talk about the Drew Jacob match, but that guarantees a winner. It guarantees a loser at Mania as well. I just don't see the people getting over the conspiracy. I think the VAR line has been drawn incorrectly for them as far as the draft goes.
Yes, football things. But since we don't have much to talk about in terms of NXT and things like that, we should talk about your team now. We'll go through the picks just to refresh people. You have Jade Cargill, MJF, Io Sky, Finn Balor, Stephanie McCare, and Roxanne and Raquel in a tag team. They are on 0 points, primarily due to Roxanne, for legitimate reasons, having to take time off television. Now, you do have Stephanie McCare not defending the belt as of yet. Jade Cargill did get a defense in right at the start of the season. Mind you, it was against whatever. But you have MJF coming up against Hangman Page at Revolution. Finn Balor's coming off a loss, but maybe they're setting something up with him and Dominic Mysterio. And of course, there's the Io Sky unpredictability. While our partner's off gallivanting off to WrestleMania, you do have Io Sky. Now, how are you feeling about your team now this far into the season?
I think that we have big game players who will come into effect now. And I said this to Ross today, actually. I think that the most pivotal match that we have in this season is MJF and that Texas Death against Hangman Page, right? If MJF can get us a title defense at Revolution, you look at the table, that maybe takes us above that pack in the middle and really puts us within touching distance, right? There's a reason that we got Jade Cargill in the fourth round. And I heard what you said, truth be told, about taking the chance in Jade again after the disappointment I had with her last season. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a totally fair comment. It's just the fact that I think that Jade is a bit of a banker to retain that belt. I think they're holding off till Bianca comes back. And also they've started this bullshit with Meacham and B-Fab again on SmackDown. So surely, for the love of Christ, she's finally going to get those TV title defenses in. You know what I mean? At long last. So our key path to victory will only come if MJF retains the title at Revolution and Jade Cargill, as captain, gets those TV title defenses. With the rest of it, Finn Balor will have a match at Mania. The Judgment Day classic appearance points getters. I firmly believe that Io Sky should have a match at Mania. We're kind of banking on that as well. Stephanie against Liv, I think, is anyone's game. I could see the breakup of the Judgment Day happening about then, and perhaps Raquel and Roxanne costing Liv Morgan that match, which would mean title defense points for Stephanie McCare. The big unfortunate thing for us this season has been Roxanne getting a big chunk of her back removed, which no one saw coming. We thought them as a tag team in terms of appearance points would have been a bit of a banker, so it's really disappointing right now because I think it would be fair to compare them to where Finn Balor is right now. So say around an extra 10 points for the team if Roxanne was there, instantly takes us into a competitive fourth place. So yes, it's really unfortunate that Roxanne's had to take that time off. But, Scott, I've employed the same strategy that has won me 3 tag seasons. We got 4 women's picks off the board right away, a women's tag team, strong women's champions. The last time that I had 2 women's world champions in WWE in this season, I went on to win the damn thing. And also, I have never won this season in a landslide. Every single time I've won this season, it has been at the 11th hour. Because what a lot of people forget about the WrestleMania season is they think, get to Chamber and that's the big Rumble sort of thing. And it is to an extent, but it's about the long game. This is the season with a lot of TV in between where the big players show up. And you look at my team, Scott, compared to the likes of the Think Tank or the Jamesons or Andy and JP, me and Ross have more big game players than any of those guys. So that is why I'm saying, yes, we might be in 5th right now. Yes, it might not be good reading for the table, but I have seen this show before and I know the ending. So I still have perhaps a blind confidence, Scott, in our team this season.
Well, I'm glad to see you do, because honestly, after the Chamber and after what happened to Dominic on Raw, my confidence is shaken. Right now.
Yeah.
Now
You need to know.
there's uncertainty regarding Dom and Tiffany in my eyes, where they do at Mania, even though I'd like to see them at Mania. So now I'm putting my eggs in the Liv and Roman basket, which is why I haven't dared move my captaincy off of Liv Morgan at this point. But
Genuinely, I'd say the same for you. See, if I was to look at your team objectively, turn the clock back to when I was objectively hosting this show, right? Liv, big game player. Tiffany, big game player. Dom, big game player. Roman, big game player. Mania main event. FTR, I think Defendant Revolution. Your only weak point, I think, might be Jordan Grace. But I think actually, when I look at your team, this is where I think the table's going to even up. And I think you are one of those teams who will benefit from the next several weeks of television in the lead up to WrestleMania.
yeah, possibly, yeah, because
Let me build yourself up, Scott. We don't want to see
I
you.
have to face to face, you know. I got two main event matches. You know, I'm going up against you guys at Mania with Stephanie Vicaire, who on 6 points. You know, I talked about Stephanie Vicaire. You know, she did help you a good few seasons ago. I think it was the season where she won the title in the first place after Naomi went away. But
she took her sweet time doing it, but she did it eventually.
yeah, she took her time. But like, even from NXT onwards, she slowly but surely was building herself up as such a reliable player. On 6 points, because she's not as wrestling as often. Are you worried about Stephanie Vicaire maybe not living up to the potential of previous season? Because there's always those players where you get them because either they worked for you or they worked for someone else in the previous season, but then there's this one season you get them and they're just not performing to their usual standard.
Yeah, look, you've got to remember we were drafting in second last place, you know, so when it got time to get to us, and we knew this, we thought Stephanie would slip to that point, and it was a no-brainer to take the chance on her. And look, another football analogy, Scott. Sometimes a striker can do nothing for 85 minutes, but if they score the winner, everyone forgets about that. You know, I really don't care what Stephanie has done to this point. If we can get more appearances in this angle with Liv, if we can get a title retention at WrestleMania, that's really what matters to get us over the line. Like I said, I think my key players will be Jade and MJF at this point, and then need to see what EO's going to do. Finn will get those appearances. Stephanie Vicaire can be that glory hunter who comes in at the end and just comes in clutch with a big win. I will be happy if she manages to do that.
We'll see. Like I said, it's still very competitive. It'll be interesting to come to this podcast the week after Revolution and see where things are in terms of the table. I think something I should say about my own team is that I think there's something I said about Robert Shaw, who performed very strongly last season, didn't end up getting the win in the end, but he had a strong season, particularly with the likes of like Drew winning and some people getting unexpected title wins on his team. I said about Robert Shaw, his team relies on certain things happening, and sometimes you hire somebody, you get somebody on your team, and you think this will be a great pick if this one thing I hope happens. And I think I had several of those people on my team, and because the Tiffany thing didn't happen, she's fooled me once. Rumble came up short, fooled me twice. You know, she's going to become like my relationship with the TNT title. I got burned by that belt several times over the years.
And listen, Gary Kernahan used to be a classic case of right team, wrong time. You know, I felt like there was a lot of seasons where everyone would look at Gary's team and go, oh, that's a good team he's got right there. He might be a favourite. And he ends up finishing near the bottom of the table, you know, because sometimes it is about timing, you know. But I do think that, you know, and this is your relationship with this season as well. You managed to win this season once upon a time. Or, you know, back in the day before it was a tag team season. I firmly believe that the Chamber, especially this season, can be a bit of an overhyped event, you know, in terms of even the winner, you know. So I think that we are going to see that pay dividends in the coming weeks. This is going to be, I predict, an extremely close season among a number of players, because I think that the ones who are at the top right now have the potential to cool. I'm most worried about the think tank. I'm worried about JP and Andy if Cody keeps winning, but I do think there will be a cooling off period for those who are the front runners right now.
Yeah, it's very interesting to be doing this right before SmackDown and see where Andy and JP lie at the moment. because that will definitely turn things on its head. It's amazing how Steven and Guy have done so well, not just with Punk, but just the fact that John Moxley been doing so well. Most of these matches are eliminator matches, but we'll see what happens between him and Takeshita at Revolution, see how much longer they can keep that going. Because I think we should point out AEW Dynasty will be, because how far and later into April they push WrestleMania back. The Dynasty is another opportunity for Moxley. So, like you said about Think Tank running his team, Moxley can still run. Moxley is somebody who has been such a consistent performer even now. Even when you think he possibly can't possibly have anything more left in the tank, anything left more to run on AEW, he just keeps popping up and, here's another cheeky wee John Moxley win for this person. So,
I mean, I'd be lying if I said we hadn't considered them as well.
Oh, yeah, I was so disappointed not to get John Moxley.
Yeah, it was a great pickup for Stephen and Gary. And listen, but it does apply to other people. It applies to you with FTR. It applies to me with NGF. I do. And actually, the fact that Dynasty is in Canada, and I know something a bit about Dynasties myself, Scott McLeod, but I think the fact that event is in Canada it does make me think that FTR will defend at Revolution and go on to face Edge and Christian as things firmly on in Dynasty. So I think that you're going to be damned if you do, damned if you don't. I do think you get the win, and then you'll have the tag team titles right up until WrestleMania, where they will probably lose them.
There's a curse of it. I can just feel it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this episode of the Wrestling Draft. Thank you to David Campbell for stepping in the way you have and giving us your analysis and your foresight into not only your team, but the draft as a whole.
Yeah, I love talking about the draft. That's all there is to say about it. I love talking about the draft. It's a lot of fun.
You don't have to exactly to twist your arm to get you on. Yeah,
exactly. And I do think, listen, I play it up. Me and Ross McLeod, we love being the spoiler in this league a lot of the time. But I think everyone's drafted fairly well this season, and actually the amount of sellers and things that have went wrong have made it very entertaining. I just think that everyone has let me play the same exact strategy that has let me win this season 3 times before. It might happen again.
Those forget history, But thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Dave might be back next week. We will try to get more guests on to try and give us their perspective of the team, because me and Dave, as we've mentioned several times before, and people keep forgetting it, we're just giving us our initial opinions on people's teams. We don't know what's going on in people's brains, and frankly, we don't want to know.
Please get JP on. Please get JP on. That would be so funny.
I have to have a content warning at the start of his episode. The views of JP all this year at the Wrestling Draft.
Amazing.
Go ahead and please ignore in that one. But thank you, everybody. Until next time, I'm just going to go thank you. Follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Draft. And we'll see you next time. Same draft time, same draft channel.